Hello everyone. We were at we have just finished off with our ISIS, right? What we are doing is getting to know our non-state actors in the Middle East before we go to Middle East. I will be giving you enough time to make sure that you go through with this easily, understand what different non-state actors are doing. Non-state actor means you're these non-nation, government, state, etc. Okay, like Al Qaeda, Taliban, these are non-state actors. NGO can be non-state actor, a person can be a non-state actor, terrorist can be a non-state actor. So don't get confused in that at least. Okay. Now we were going to start our crisis in Yemen. So understand what happened. First, before that, understand where Yemen is. Okay. So you understand this thing. This is the location of Yemen. Why it is important? As simple as that. Because this is your Mandab Strait. This is important because trade passes from there. Okay, we have covered this enough times. So some of you posted me some queries regarding this Yemen as well when news were coming. A lot of news is always coming. Recently, Aramco has been bombed from Houthi rebels in Yemen. Now you guys were not able to comprehend what Houthis were, who they are in support with. So I hope after today you won't be having this problem. Okay, and so that you have enough time to comprehend everything in past two lectures, because I know they were a bit confusing. You try to make a table. Try to make a table like this. Taliban, where? Afghanistan. What is the end goal? End goal is Sharia. Sharia in Afghanistan. Okay, then you note down another like Muslim Brotherhood. Okay, where? Egypt. Okay, what is the end goal? Political power. Okay, how did it originate? Reformist movement. Okay, so as a restive movement, reformist movement. So you kindly please do this. This will be very helpful for you. Otherwise, you will be struggling with the whole of your world section of Hindu newspaper at least. Okay, and see, nobody is going to ask you regarding these, but this gives you enough fodder material to write. 50 to 60 words you can write about these only, non-state actors. Okay, 100 and 150 words you write about the issue, 50 words you write about whatever the solution or way forward for India is, or India's policies or India's stand is. 250 words completed. Okay, so make sure you are in that habit at least now, or if you are not, at least try to write some previous year question, or maybe I'll give you next time. Okay, so obviously Yemen is a small topic, so after covering this we will try to complete one of our neighbor today only. So I don't want you guys to remember many things separately. That is why I'm trying to integrate things. Okay, you will eventually understand what occurred. So okay, now understand crisis in Yemen. Yemen is near your Saudi Arabia. One more thing that is important for Yemen, even for Qatar. See, Qatar, first you look at Qatar. Qatar has a border with Saudi Arabia. Okay, you say this. It is a land border with Saudi Arabia. Okay, now look at Yemen. Yemen also has a land border, a very big land border with Saudi Arabia. This makes effectively what? This makes effectively Saudi Arabia concerned about what goes on in Yemen, because obviously nobody wants instability near their borders, because sometimes what happens is, as we have seen with the Aramco bomb blast, that the elements of violence come across border and you get in trouble. Okay, so Now understand first the demographics. It is a Sunni state. Majority is Sunni in Yemen. Okay. Saudi Arabia is also Sunni. So obviously the government of Yemen will be having a constant support by Saudi Arabia. Now from government, clearly you understand this thing. Mansoor Hadi. Mansoor Hadi is the head of the government, or currently you can say that it is a government in exile. Now you remember I told you about our Dalai Lama from Tibet. Now he is also having a government in exile near Dharamshala in India. Same, Hadi, government in exile. Now why exile? We understand that China captured Tibet. That is why Dalai Lama came to India as a refuge. Now why Hadi? Understand. Houthi is a Shia sect. Shia. Houthis are Shia. Shia are also enough there, 35%. Now Houthis belonging to Shia were against this government. Okay, this government is Sunni government. Houthis, Shia. Okay, now they were in constant rebellion with your Hadi government. Okay, now the roots rise regarding whole of this crisis. Roots lies in 2004 when your Ali Abdullah Saleh was the head of government in Yemen and there was a uprising. So Houthis revolted against him. Reason? Because they do not want Sunnis cultural influence coming over Shia population. That you please do not try to change our ways, do not try to force upon us your opinions, ideology, etc. Get it? We want our culture to remain independent. We don't want your cultural interference in us. Okay, that is the simple thing that they wanted. So what they would want is that we want a larger autonomy. We want ourselves to have say in how we conduct our ways, our life. Autonomy. We want autonomy. That is simple demand that Houthis had. Then there were some talks. There was this national dialogue conference that happened in 2014, but it was of no use because by that time Hadi came to power. Okay, and Hadi was having a good support of your big Sunni state in the region, Saudi Arabia. So obviously Houthis would feel like what? That this is like super Sunni now. Earlier Saleh government was just Sunni. Now Hadi is having complete backing of Saudi Arabia. So he is like super Sunni. We don't see how. We don't see how it can be beneficial for us. And in the conference they decided that maybe we could divide Yemen into 6 different regions, 6 different zones. Okay, like India having many states. Similarly, they wanted Yemen to divide into 6. Now, Houthis did not support this move. They said that further, let's say, further balkanization of the area would only lead to what? Crisis. Another tribe will want another thing, another tribe would want another thing, because this is tribal is a culture that Middle East has. Okay, sectarian or tribal, these are all mostly meaning same things. Okay, a little bit of different in your culture and you are completely thinking yourself as a whole individual tribe. Okay, now after that what we see, coming back to today only, but before that what we see is that Houthis got support from Iran. Now why would Iran support Houthi? See, it is Shia, Iran. It is Shia, Houthis. How will you support? You will give arms, ammunition, dollars. You will give, what else you can give? You can give training, you can give strategy, you can give a lot of things, right? Because aimless you cannot go ahead very far. So Iran has been involved in supporting your Houthi. Now obviously, who is Houthi fighting against? The government, Hadi government. Okay. Now what they wanted earlier? Autonomy. Now what they want? Separate. They want to control their regions. Now what is that region? That is near Sana'a. Sana'a is capital of Yemen. Sana'a. So they are in total control of Sana'a even today. Okay. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia will come to aid. Hadi will go to Saudi Arabia. He will he will have government in exile in Saudi Arabia. Obviously, if Hadi stays in Yemen, Houthis will kill them, kill him and his whole ministerial whatever he has. Okay, secretariat, anything. So Saudi Arabia is giving exile to Hadi. Now Houthis will think of what? Understand? When we gave refuge to Dalai Lama, China attacked us. 62. Why? Suspicion. Suspicion rose. Similarly, Houthis, who will they be against of Saudi Arabia now? Because Saudi Arabia is giving refuge to Hadi, and Saudi Arabia is, see, they, if Houthis are there in the region in Yemen, there will be other groups as well, Sunni groups, Sunni Islamist group, extremist groups. They will be fighting Houthis. Now Saudi Arabia can't use its military directly, so it will first start giving aid to those groups. Now Saudi Arabia alone does not want to do this, so it will form an alliance with UAE. UAE, where it is? Where is UAE? You keep the maps always in your mind. This is UAE here, near here only, Saudi Arabia border. So you see, this and this forming an alliance, fighting in Yemen against whom? Houthis. Now Houthis completely crossing these guys that these are my enemy now. What region does this Houthis have in control of? This one, Sana. Okay, this is Aden where currently the fight is going on. Aden. Now this one is important more than this region. Why? Because this region has this, Aden region is having this direct Bab al Mandab Strait linkages with Bab al Mandab Strait, which is strategically important to the whole world. Saudi Arabia backing of USA, Iran there backing Houthis. Now what we are going to see now is something completely different. This is the southern Yemen. This is northern Yemen. Understand? UAE. UAE. This one where Dubai is. Now understand, UAE will start supporting now whom? In the southern. First they started with Saudi Arabia, wanting what? That whole of Houthis get dismembered. But now UAE themselves are supporting another group in southern Yemen, where they want that another different state gets carved out here. A successionist movement UAE is supporting. Why? Because UAE wants world. See, UAE, these countries do not exert much power without their oil diplomacy. So if UAE is able to, let's say, carve this state out using the extremist groups here, rebels there, if UAE is able to manage that, then what will happen is that the government that will establish in southern Yemen, UAE will be its best friend, and UAE will be in control of this strait. Okay, so UAE will suddenly have lot of leverage over world. Okay, it will get it some hard power. Okay, now I hope this makes kind of sense to you. Okay, now Sanaa, North Yemen, Sanaa, in control of Houthis. This movement in your southern Yemen is called Al-Hiraq movement or South Yemen movement. It is being supported by UAE. So UAE and Saudi Arabia are now, let's say, suspicious over each other. They are not now best friends. Meanwhile, Yemen has a lot of Indian diaspora there. Indian people working in Yemen. Lots of there are. Okay, so in this crisis, what will happen? That their life will be in danger. So India will have to be in active role, and that is why your these ships INS Sumitra, INS Mumbai, and INS Tarkash are on a standby near. In case that Indian starts getting killed or anything, they will just evacuate them. Okay, so this is what you needed to know. I hope that you won't be facing any problem. Who is not with whom. Okay, now obviously you understand one thing, that nobody will be. Iran won't be saying out loud. It won't be saying on loudspeaker that we are supporting Houthis. They will say that we are not doing anything with Houthis. Okay, that is how politics works. Politics is no ethics. Politics is equal to no ethics. There are no ethics in politics. So you don't say that, sir, but they are not saying that they had anything to do with those attacked by Houthis. Though they had, they won't be saying that. Okay. Meanwhile, currently, understand, USA plus Saudi Arabia nexus, they want to eliminate or let's say contain Iran. They do not want Iran's presence to dominate in the Gulf region. Otherwise, what will happen is that USA's influence will decline. So that is why already Iran is sanctioned, and this Aramco crisis, Aramco bomb blast by Houthis has led to two things. First, it has deciphered, it has decoded the lack of defense in your Saudi Arabian territory. That is your very first. And the second is that it has given United States of America another reason how it can intervene in the affairs of Iran. It can attack. It has many options. It can raise this issue over global platform, furthering pressure upon Iran. Okay, so you keep note of how things are escalating, and let's see what happens later on. Okay, so that was your Yemen crisis. Another thing that I want to lay emphasis over the region is your Qatar. Where is Qatar? First, always know, we did this, that Qatar is having this boundary with Saudi Arabia. Know one thing, Qatar imports food. It's most of the food, 80% food. See, Qatar can't grow much, so it will be importing food from Saudi Arabia itself. Now something has occurred in past 1 or 2 years. Qatar has been isolated by all of your OIC and OPEC countries. Mostly OPEC countries. This include many of your countries, even Venezuela. First thing you have to understand is that they have excluded Qatar from any of their relations. They are not talking to Qatar. Everybody is nearby. Everybody is against Qatar. Now we are going to understand why, and why Qatar is important for us also. ठीक है? The first thing, the allegations against Qatar were that they were supporting your Muslim Brotherhood. Muslim Brotherhood, your Egypt wali party. Now understand one thing, what Muslim Brotherhood was. Muslim Brotherhood was on one side, another side was your Wahhabi ideology. Your Wahhabi ideology, which Saudi Arabia has used to enforce their laws, their tough Islamic laws upon people, so that they never tend to say anything against monarchy in in the environment of Arab Spring ideologies. Arab Spring मतलब democracy, fraternity, equality. Saudi Arabia does not want this thing. Otherwise, its monarchy would collapse. King would go home. Okay. So Wahhabi ideology. So Muslim Brotherhood ideology gives a competition, or let's say direct confrontation, to Wahhabi ideology. This makes Muslim Brotherhood a enemy of Saudi Arabia. That is one thing. Saudi Arabia controls OPEC. Although OPEC has membership of many countries, but Saudi Arabia is, let's say, plays the role of its leadership role. Okay. Second, this was your first point. Second point is Qatar is known for its world news channel. It is a worldwide news channel. It is not like NDTV that just shows news of Gujarat and all. It has a world news channel. It is called Al Jazeera. You might have seen it, and it gives news of whole of the world. Now, because whole of the world is watching, what Saudi Arabia says is that Qatar, you are always showing us, Saudi Arabia, as demons, evils. You are always showing us that we are doing wrong with people, we are doing, let's say, engaged in our anti-Egypt programs, anti-Egypt, Muslim Brotherhood, remember, Saudi Arabia not in favor. So this is one issue. Okay, so these 2 points you keep on remembering. First is your ideology against Muslim Brotherhood and the suspicion that Qatar supports it. Second, Al Jazeera, that you are showing wrong side of us, bad side of us. You are not showing that Saudi Arabia is doing something good. You are always showing that Saudi Arabia is hurting people, doing this, doing that. Okay, we don't want this. Okay. We, Gulf countries, Gulf means, Gulf is what? See, this is your Gulf. Whenever we talk about Gulf, this is Gulf. Gulf means Persian Gulf countries. These are Gulf countries. Okay. So what they are saying, that we Gulf countries won't be having good relations with you now. We will make sure that we isolate you. You won't be having any friends. And we are your neighbors, and all of you, our neighbors, will not talk to you. So you will be living in a very exile kind of state. Let's see what Qatar's view is. Qatar does not care much about this because oil production is not one of its greatest. OPEC is known for its oil regime. How much we will produce, how much we will sell, what at what rate. So these things are what OPEC are concerned with. Qatar has said one thing very clearly, that obviously we are not in oil very much. We are not the major exporter. What we are in, let's say, in dominance of is gas. And because India is trying to move away from oil. We don't want oil. What we are trying to do is we are trying to change our economy towards gas and renewable energies. So this makes Qatar very important for us. Okay, Qatar is in fact having one of the largest oil reserve in the whole world. First point. Second point, Qatar is in need of food because obviously Saudi Arabia is not going to give it food access. It won't be opening its border now to provide food to Qatar. So it gives India, we are a major agricultural export country. So it gives us, India, a good opportunity to help Qatar by solving the problem of their food security. Their food security dilemma we can solve. So it is one way forward for India. Okay. Second thing is that many people in Qatar, see, all the neighbor countries, their people will be in Qatar working. Now because their country is being hostile to Qatar, those people will be moving out. Leaving what? Leaving job opportunities. So it is a good opportunity for India. See, Qatar is one of very high development index it has. Okay, Human Development Index very high it is. Qatar per capita income is very high, so it is a very rich country. So Indian people can go to Qatar for jobs because many jobs are vacant now there. Because if a Saudi Arabia person citizen, he has gone to Saudi Arabia back. UAE person, he has gone to UAE back. Oman person, he has gone to Oman back. Why? Because their country are not friends with Qatar anymore. Okay, so it is good opportunity for Indians to go to Qatar and get jobs. So this is one of the crux of the this whole issue. One more thing, due to, see, most of their imports would be coming from your land border of Saudi Arabia, as I showed you, I think. So you think about this. If you want heavy things, what heavy things? Let's say cement you want or steel you want. How would you get this? From this region only, right? Saudi Arabia. Now this has been blocked. What? Why? Why this Saudi Arabia has blocked this is, first, food security. You won't get food. Second is that it will rise the cost of your manufacturing items. Let's say cement, sand, POP, etc, steel, iron. Why? Because Qatar is having 2022 World Cup FIFA. Just like we India once had this Commonwealth, and at that time, only after that time, we saw that the Delhi completely changed. It renovated. Okay, lots of major infrastructure, highways, and etc were taken up by the Sheila Dikshit government in Delhi. Similarly, Qatar is engaged in heavy construction work because they have to host the whole world in 2022 World Cup FIFA. So this has created trouble for Qatar because now, earlier, let's say $100 million they had to spend to construct one stadium. Now, due to the escalation in prices, because you can't import from Saudi Arabia or nearby countries, nobody is your friend. What this means is that $100 million now means $200 million. Okay, so again, giving India an opportunity to increase its export to Qatar in your steel and iron. Meanwhile, considering that United States of America has imposed tariffs on India's steel import, you know this or not? India tariff has been increased. This was last year, USA. So we are in search of, let's say, markets to increase, or let's say keep our export at the same level as before, or at least the profit margins. So this is how you will be writing about Qatar issue if it comes, because it will be in news for, let's say, next 2-3 years. Qatar. I don't think that Qatar could go back being friends with the Gulf countries again, because once what has happened now. Until unless we understand, this is monarchy. So Prince Salman, or whenever he becomes King Salman, or his son will maintain same relations with Qatar until unless Saudi Arabia becomes democracy. UAE also monarchy. So Oman. So you think that these are not changes that these are not events that would change very much. Monarchy means that once you have an enemy, it will remain enemy for a very very long time. Okay, so that is much about our most of these countries. We will come back to this Middle East. Okay, we will come back to now Middle East. I'm giving you time. I'll try to give you 1 or 2 days time. You try to make sure that you understand, go through all the non-state actors in the whole of this region, and important things: Yemen, Qatar, and your Syrian crisis. Israel also, but okay, Israel most probably there is nothing much. Prelims only question could come regarding your geographical locations there, like let's say Golan Heights or anything. that comes, or maybe in fact the borders, because for past 2 years there have been questions regarding this region, which lake it is sharing. Like let's say there was this question that Lebanon has access to your this sea. What is the name of this sea? Access to Mediterranean Sea technically. So was it true or not? So yes, Lebanon faces. So you make sure you learn this as well. Lebanon has access to sea. Yes. Who does not have? Jordan. Jordan does not have. Jordan is landlocked. So these kind of things also you try to check out when you are looking over maps. Okay, now keep it light. What we will do is come back to India and we'll try to finish off one more neighboring country. Okay, so let's do Myanmar today. Okay, now this is your Myanmar. First thing what you do is you understand its border. It has border with Mizoram, Manipur, Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh. First thing, you make sure you understand this thing. Second thing, there is this tri-junction, Arunachal Pradesh, China and Myanmar. So there is this tri-junction. We call this tri-junction when three nations are there. Just like Doklam. Doklam was having Bhutan, China and India. It was Doklam. Similarly, Myanmar also we share a tri-junction. Now, understand one thing. Whenever we are studying about our India's neighborhood policy, understand one thing very clearly. The questions will be asked not like what did we do when, let's say, Myanmar's state or head of state came to India. Nobody asks questions like that. What they will want is they will ask you to analyze the trend. The trend. Tell me what changes have you seen with our policy regarding Myanmar. And whenever you will be analyzing the trend, you have to always consider China, whatever your neighbor is, whether Pakistan or Maldives. See, in Maldives when we tried to, or Afghanistan when we tried to emphasize on what China's policy is. Because see, there is no contender nearby. Pakistan you do not consider as competition. What is competition nearby? China. Okay, India can only balance China's power in the region. So whenever we will be answering any question regarding our neighborhood, we have to always keep China's game in mind, because only after that, when we know that what China's game is, then we, let's say, evolve our policies, that how we have to now go. Okay, like China was going into Maldives too much, so we were like, we will stay apart from Maldives, we will not engage with Maldives. Modi did not go to Maldives. It was a clear message that stay away from China, don't let China make another base in Maldives, like Hambantota port in Sri Lanka. We don't want things like that to escalate. Okay, now considering Myanmar, understand one thing very very clearly. Our major neighborhood policy is, first thing, neighborhood first policy. Second thing, look east policy. Not look east, it is now act east. Act east policy. And third is connect West Asia policy, or let's say link West Asia policy. So these are three. Now this is not in neighborhood, but what India considers Iran and all these is extended neighborhood, at least Afghanistan. What India says is that Iran and etc are our extended neighborhood. So this is a policy of British times. You understand? The policy of ring fencing. Ring fencing policy was there. This was first line of defense, buffer state. This was second line of defense during British times. So we are kind of using those only, because obviously our colonial legacy, our past determines our present and future always. Okay, now we have to use one of the policy to analyze Myanmar. So first, neighborhood first policy. Obviously, we will help Myanmar how much soever we can. Second is our Act East policy. Now, Myanmar is not East. East is this whole of the area. This whole is East. This whole is East. So obviously, if we want to enhance our relation with any of the Eastern country, or let's say ASEAN, we already have $100 billion of trade with ASEAN countries, and if we want to escalate that, what first thing that is being demanded, or let's say it is logical or reasonable to suggest that we want to establish a good connectivity to these countries. Now obviously, if we want to connect to these countries like Thailand or Cambodia or Vietnam, anyone like that, this is the border, Myanmar. So Myanmar effectively becomes your gateway to East. So this makes Myanmar very, very important, because we do not want, first thing, you understand, very, very important thing. First thing, Pakistan also has this, what Myanmar has. Pakistan has not been giving us access to Afghanistan. We do not want that thing to happen in Myanmar. China is friends with Pakistan. China is also trying to become friends with Myanmar, because for China also you think that China's policy is that China wants different routes to get engaged with your Indian Ocean. Now Myanmar can give it access to your Indian Ocean, another route. Okay, already it has already China has ports here. China has ports in Djibouti. China has port here. Okay, China is building Kra here. ठीक है. Now think, if Myanmar, if it is able to use properly and it can get a port, then it will again shorten the route further, another trade route. Okay, this is not good for India. So in this context, we will keep this context in our mind and then analyze what our policy for Myanmar is. Okay, so now the first thing that I would like to lay emphasis on is that Myanmar is just not important for us through the perspective of connecting us to your East. It is also very important for us in second context, that is the development of our Northeast region. Understand, Northeast region of India is not well connected to India also, because only this much, see, this is the land that connects the whole of Northeast. This is called your Siliguri corridor, also known as your chicken's neck, making it a strategically important choke point for India. Now this has some limitations, because of which we are not able to provide stuff to Mizoram, Manipur, Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh very cheaply. Things are expensive there. We don't have good people to people connect. Okay, if Mizo person comes to Delhi and studies in Delhi University, then it is fine, but nobody is going to Mizoram. Okay, because of, first, it is very expensive to go there. Second, living is very expensive there. Okay, I have lived in Mizoram for many months, around 6 months, so I know that even an apple cost 100 rupees there, at least 6 to 7 years back. Okay, now connectivity is one issue that we have to deal with. Connectivity, if connectivity we are able to solve, if we can solve connectivity problem, that means that these states can develop very fast. Also, Nagaland has secessionist issues. Let's say in Punjab, Khalistan, Nagaland, Naga tribes. Why? See, understand. This is not geographical locations. These are not your geographical boundaries. These are human made boundaries. Human has made this boundary. This boundary is geography. Geography has made this boundary. That there are mountains, you cannot go there. So this is geography. This is desert. Geography has made that boundary. But here, human has made that boundary. We have made that boundary. So what that meant was, what this means is that people living here, see, these are all tribal areas. A person is having belonging to one tribe, let's say Naga tribe 1. There are many Naga tribes. One person is belonging to Naga tribe 1, but his mother sister lives here, Naga tribe 2. What this means is that when you created this boundary, these people got separated from their families. They have been living there for, let's say, past 1,000 years, and now random people calling themselves Indians have separated these families by creating an artificial border. Obviously, they are not going to follow this. What this will mean is that rise of Naga secessionist movement, insurgency movements. They will rebel that we don't want this. Okay, this is a problem for us as well as for Myanmar. But Myanmar is not very stable because Myanmar has democracy on face. On face they have president. On face they have Aung San Suu Kyi. Aung San Suu Kyi is not president, remember. Okay, she is an advisor to government because she has children outside of Myanmar person. She has foreigner person as children, so that is why the law does not allow her to become president. But she still is the face of democracy there. Okay, that is one thing. So to solve this issue, we had our R.N. Ravi as interlocutor for inside issues. He was the one who was supposed to R.N. Ravi, IPS officer. Now he was supposed to intermediate between NSCN, feuding NSCN branches. There are many branches of NSCN to resolve the issues in Nagaland. Okay, but we are not considered about internal right now. What we are considered about it external. So externally, what we have accomplished is that we have signed treaty with Myanmar to establish. See, the borders do not have fences, so it is very much easier for insurgents to live here in Myanmar's territory, train here, get weapons from China. Okay, ISI can cross China and provide from Chinese territory, and then come to Nagaland and start shooting etc. This has happened before. Okay, but before coming to the border issue, I will first complete my connectivity. Okay, you understand the problem, the border issue that we have with Myanmar. We want that people living here can meet their families here as well. So we are wanting to establish a no border regime. No border regime does not mean that there is no border. There is border, but what we can do is that we will provide you a border pass. We will provide you with a border pass, and you can, what this border pass can give you is that it can enable you to go from here to here, 14 kilometers. 14 kilometers you can enter in Myanmar, meet your family etc. And person living in Myanmar can also come inside 14 kilometers without any visa or passport, only your border pass. Okay, so this is very important escalation we have seen recently, but our cabinet has passed this thing, but Myanmar has put this on hold. So We don't know why, but we have seen that during maybe because of Rohingya issue or anything, we don't know the reason, but Myanmar has not signed it. Myanmar has put it on hold. Put it on hold till when? Indefinitely. So we are not sure if they will eventually ever sign or not even. Okay. This makes Rohingya refugee problem also important for us. So we will try to discuss that also. But before that, regarding the northeastern development, the development of Nagaland, Manipur, Tripura, Mizoram, etc., Arunachal Pradesh, these countries, for the development of this, how can you develop it if you can provide another access route? So what India and Myanmar has, at least in one thing that we have been able to sign good thing is Kaladan multimodal project. Kaladan multimodal project. Now, what is multimodal? Multimodal is that you are not using just one mechanism or means of transport. It is not like you put something on ship and end point only in ship only it came. No, even when you use Flipkart delivery, see, one person will use train. Okay, that freight train will come and transport it to Delhi, let's say. Then it will go on a truck to the, let's say, go down. Then from go down it will come on a scooty or bike to your home. Then person will walk also. So it is kind of multimodal like that. In Kaladan also, what we are trying to establish is that from the Kolkata port we will have this route. Okay, at this point, understand how it is multimodal. If you understand this, then most of the northeast you can write, because 50 words, because this is in development, Kaladan multimodal project. So you can use it for your Act East policy. Okay, even your, let's say, Indian development, northeastern countries or northeastern states. So this is first part of the multimodal. This is one. From Kolkata port, what you want is to go to here. This is your Sitwe. So this is first. This is on ship. Obviously, you can't run a car. Multimodal means multi-mode. This is one mode. Then from Sitwe, what you will use is, there is some river here. What is the name of the river? Kaladan is the name of the river. Kaladan river. Okay, so it will be like this. So like here, let's assume that it is coming. Now this is your second. This is your river route. What is the name of the river? Kaladan river. Okay. Then from this point you enter to Mizoram. And from Mizoram, if you enter, you can easily provide anywhere. Manipur, Nagaland, Meghalaya. So cost decreases. Otherwise, truck will run here, and these mountains are not like easy route. For traveling 2 kilometers of distance in mountains, you have to go like this on top of the mountain, then again come back, then escalate, then come back. So 2 kilometers of journey here to here means lot of fuel, increasing the prices. So you understand this port as well, and major phases in Kaladan project. One is your river route, Kaladan. Second is your ship route from Kolkata to Sitwe. And third is your Lashio to Mizoram. Lashio is a place here somewhere. Lashio. 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 From Lashio to your Mizoram. Mizoram here only. Okay. That is your Kaladan multimodal project. So connectivity issue we are trying to solve. Kaladan is the answer. Second is, you understand, we want to establish Myanmar as our mediator. We do not want another Pakistan that is able to deter our trade relation with Afghanistan or, let's say, Central Asian countries. We want good relations to keep on going with ASEAN. So what we are trying to develop is a road, let's say like this. And this is your Indian Myanmar Thailand trilateral highway. Trilateral highway. So soon you will be able to go to Thailand over a bike or let's say car. ठीक है? And India what wants is that India would want to extend this highway further to go to Laos or Cambodia. Okay, so you understand the importance of Myanmar because our connection with whole of eastern countries plus our northeastern states. This is our internal issue, this is our external issue, and both answer is Myanmar. Third, to keep China in check. We do not want China to be too much engaged in Myanmar, otherwise China will make sure that Myanmar do not allow us to do these things, and this will only stop India, only reduce India's stance in world politics. Okay, now this route IMT trilateral highway, it will be Meosot here, MEOSOT, Meosot, or here it will be near Manipur, it is More, MORREH, or whatever is the spelling, you check yourself. So More in Manipur, like this it is coming here, Moisot, whatever, however you pronounce it, your wish. Okay, so you understand how important it is for gateway to east plus our development of northeastern states. Now this is your first point. Second point, gateway to east. Second, internal northeastern states. Third, keeping China in check. Now fourth, understand from logic, what do you think? Nagaland insurgency problem. So insurgency we can check. If we have good relation with Myanmar, we can effectively stop insurgency because we can have army here, we can train Myanmar people, we can put pressure on Myanmar that you do not allow any terrorists to get training over your territory and coming to Nagaland, okay, creating trouble for us. So it will give us power in that aspect as well. Okay, now also to keep pressure on Myanmar, what India will do is India will have to invest. Why would it allow transport going through like this and this for our sake? No, it will give us because we are going to invest a lot in Myanmar. Okay, so that is why we are the 10th largest investor in Myanmar for its energy security. We provided oil and gas. Understand one thing, I don't know where you are at geography. Okay, this region, coal, Jharkhand belt, this is what belt, and this region, gas, oil, coal. So obviously you think na, we can eliminate its security needs. Myanmar also needs oil, coal, etc. Now Myanmar is not that much let's say superhero. We are India, we can go and get oil from Saudi Arabia, gas from Qatar. You are Myanmar, you are small country, you don't have that much of negotiation power, so we are helping you. Okay, so you have to make sure that you are also helping someone, then only they will help. Okay, so that is one aspect. Then also one thing you have to understand is you try to have an understanding of what Myanmar is. So Myanmar is going through two kinds of let's say transitions. First is your political transition and second is your economic transition. Now economy, obviously it is becoming open market economy like we did after 1992, and politically it is transitioning from army state to your, let's say at face value it is democracy. Okay, so that is one important point. Now understand one more important point is, which I would like to emphasize upon is, although there is no, let's say there is no quality democratic structure there, but it is anyway better than your Musharraf regime in Pakistan, because there was no accountability over him. He could do anything that he wanted. There was no need for him to check whether I should go for Kargil, maybe I should check with seniors. No. One person having too much power. Power corrupts. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Okay, so this thing you keep in check. So even though Myanmar does not have the best of the democratic structure, yet it is better than any other. Okay. Also now, India and Japan is a good friend. Do you remember that Japan, when it was Imperial Japan, was able to come to Burma? Burma is your Myanmar. Okay, you remember war in Kohima, here in Nagaland, nearby. So this also came in Japanese occupation during the time of this Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. So this is that area. Now, India and Japan together are building, or let's say jointly developing, a deep sea port in Dawai. Not medicine, Dawai. Dawei. Dawai here. Okay. Now there is a lot of importance for this Dawai port, because Dawai port will be like, understand one thing very sharply. This is where we are developing, let's say, Dawai port with Japan plus India joint venture. What Dawai will be to India in Myanmar is what Chabahar will be to India in Iran. Chabahar port will be our, let's say, gateway to Central Asia. Similarly, Dawai will be our gateway to Eastern Asia. This is very important. So not just Chabahar port is important, your Dawai port is important as well. Or I don't know, you call it Devi, Dawai, whatever. Spelling is this. Okay, now you tell me, what do you call it? I am calling it Devi or Dawai. Okay, so keep note of this. M say medicine, D say Dawai. Learn like this. Medicine, M, D, Dawai. Very important. Okay. So although Chabahar port is always in news and Chabahar port only lot of emphasis is given, but Dawai is much more important for us. Now understand why. See, Dawai port, if we have, okay, I'll make you understand like this. Understand, China is our only competition. China has here Gwadar port. We have here Chabahar port. Now, what amount of traffic Gwadar port can handle, it won't be handling that much. Why? Because this area is unstable. It is not very stable area. Balochistan region. It is always, if you are, let's say, sending a ship of Maruti 800 car in a ship to Gwadar port, there is a high chance that Balochistan terrorist or any terrorist bombs it. Okay. So people, business traders, anyone would be very cautious about using Gwadar port. So Chabahar port will be taking a lot of traffic. Okay. Similarly, Dawai port. We have checked China's Gwadar port by making Chabahar port a highly effective port. We have been engaged in your here Instec. It goes like this in Caspian Sea, nearby there also. We have Ashgabat Treaty as well, where we are trying to make another line here to Turkestan, including Oman as well. So we have been implementing very better, let's say you can call it, connectivity in your link West Asia policy. Similarly, it's the same thing we have to implement in this area. Same thing that we are trying to do. I will make you understand this very thoroughly. Don't worry about this. You see one thing. This is Kaladan multimodal project. This is coming like this. Kolkata, this is your sea route, this is your river route, and from here you enter Mizoram. This is your river, and this is your road. Multimodal 1, 2, 3. Understand? Now, second, let's go. Ashgabat Treaty. Ashgabat in your west. Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Iran, Pakistan, India, Oman. Now let's look at map. Understand where is Oman? Oman is here. So we will be like this. In fact, I will again show you like this, like this. What is the current route? Current route is this. Which one is shorter? You are better, and you can do this also. Basically, the aim is to enter Central Asia. See, you are passing Central Asia and you are reaching Europe. And Europe, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, okay, it is your economic zone, European Union. But Eastern European countries like this Ukraine and etc., these are yet to establish as a export area. We can use these areas to export. Understand what our internal policy is. Internal policy, our emphasis is on make in India. So obviously, if you are making in India, where are you selling then? If you are selling in India only, then you are not earning dollars. So you will make in India and you will sell. So when you are making India internally, then your external policies are, understand the trend. When your internal policy is make in India, your external policy is let's connect the whole and then let's supply them and sell. This is what China did. This is what we are trying to do. Plus, China is using connectivity as a tool to become friends with countries. Pakistan, CPEC, under its BRI initiative, Belt and Road Initiative. So it is using connectivity as a tool. Everybody wants connectivity. Every nation would, no nation would say, if you tell a nation that I will provide you $1 billion and I will construct a big road, which government or which nation would say no, don't do this? Everybody would engage and everybody will be happy. It is also one of your, let's say, soft power source of your soft power. Similarly, we can say that we are also engaged in lots of developing activities, and these developing activities provide us with our soft power, because people living there will be like, oh my god, India is creating this road, India is so good, now my land value is tripled, India is very good. There is no feeling of, let's say, harshness towards India in the minds of people. This is what our strategy was in Afghanistan, because obviously India is not that much militarily superior, or it is not like we can create our own things. We are always dependent upon, like for S-400 on Russia, for our submarines, then again on Russia. So it is not like that we have or lay claim to a very superior hard power. We don't have much. So what we try to do is lay claim to our soft power, because India, because of its cultural roots, Myanmar as well, we will see. How we will see? Myanmar, we will try to engage with its Buddhism. Okay, when you have nothing, not economic power, neither your military power, what you can do is that you lay claim to shared cultural history. You say that we are also the land of Buddhist people. Here, Lord Buddha was born. So you will try to use that as your soft power skills. Okay, and engage with whole of these areas. Okay, understand one thing, China is not Buddhist. China thinks that they are Han. Tibet is Buddhist. Tibet is Buddhist. China is Han. They are Buddhist obviously, but they consider, if you ask them what they are, they will say we are from Han dynasty, we are from Han. Okay, so don't confuse that. Why are we not able to make cultural engagement with China over Buddhism? If we make cultural engagement with China with Buddhism, they will think that we are trying to get Tibet out of China's possession, because Tibet was an independent earlier. China took over. It was a good thing Tibet was there. Tibet used to provide cushion, but now it is not there. Plus, it is the highest, let's say, plateau in the world. We call it rooftop of the world. Rooftop of the world. Okay, or terrace of the world. I hope you understand. Let's but not go there. Okay. Now, where were we? What were we doing? Chabahar's importance we were seeing, right? You do also one thing. North-South corridor. This is the whole Chabahar. You understand? Bombay, even your Gujarat you can do. You Gujarat you go. This is Chabahar. From Chabahar, this is road network, rail network, etc. This is your current. See how much you have to travel. This much right now, but now only this. So this is very short. Prices will be cheap. You will be able to better compete. Okay, and this is your Gwadar, CPEC, Kashgar. Kashgar is the area where Xinjiang, where those Uyghur Muslims. So it will connect Uyghur area as well. Lay rest to the revolts there or any secessionist tendencies. Okay, then this is your Chabahar, your Mundra port or Mumbai port, Jawaharlal Nehru port, any port you use. You go to Zaranj. This is Zaranj in Afghanistan. There is this railway network from Chabahar only, and this is your part of your Instec. Instec we did. Instec was the earlier one, the previous one that we saw. So make sure that for whenever you write about Chabahar, make sure these three things you always write about. First is your rail route to Afghan. Second is your Instec. Okay, north-south corridor basically. And third is your Ashgabat agreement. So always make sure that Chabahar, you won't be getting any marks until you write about these as well. Okay, so I hope that you are able to understand what I am saying or not saying. Okay, now we will quickly try to engage ourselves with Myanmar and finish it off. We'll try to go over Rohingya issue as well. So understand now, Myanmar, you keep on having check with Myanmar. First thing, Myanmar is the only ASEAN country, only one country ASEAN that we have border with. Makes Myanmar important for us. Second, as I said earlier, that we have to always keep in check what the China's agenda is in Myanmar. Then only we can make sure that we make a better grand strategy over Myanmar, so that we give check to China's ambition in Myanmar as well. Because we do not want another Pakistan. Another Pakistan, not in the same sense as rivalry, but your inability to give us access to trade through your territory, like Pakistan gives us for trade with Afghanistan. That is why what we did was air corridor over Afghanistan. Now with Myanmar, let's see. Myanmar, what China has, the Rakhine region, let's say Rakhine region, and in Rakhine region is where China has lot of investment in. China has lots of development work in Rakhine. Rakhine region is where Rohingyas reside. Rakhine is where Rohingyas reside. Rakhine is the region where China has lots of investments in. And why China is investing in Rakhine? Because Rakhine has this area which is called Kyokpyu, which is very, very important for China. China has put $10 billion in this Kyokpyu and it wants to establish it as a port to connect it with Hambantota in its maritime Silk Route. Maritime Silk Route also it is building, right? BRI is nothing. BRI is one is your old road network above, and second is your boat network, ship network, water network below. So BRI is comprising of two parts. For maritime Silk Route, Kyakpu port is very much important for China, which is why it has put $10 billion in the development of the Rakhine region. Okay, so this makes very robust stakes you can call for China, and this also means that Rohingya problem can see what China's policies are, that you stay very silent and you keep on hiding until unless like you are giving UPSC, you won't be telling. If China was also giving UPSC, it won't be telling anyone about that I have also filled the form. It would be telling when results are there. Okay, that see I got the rank, I am getting ITS, Indian Trade Service. After that only China would tell. Now the Rohingya issues has created a, let's say, whole of the world is looking over at Myanmar that what are you doing with those guys? Why are you killing those people, Rohingya people? Myanmar people do not consider Rohingyas as their ethnic people. They say that Rohingyas came from India or Bangladesh and they are different kind of people. They are not Buddhist. We are all Buddhist. Rohingyas are Muslim. They are not belonging here. So army had a, let's say, brutal suppression policy enforced upon Rohingya people, and Rohingya refugees moved to Bangladesh. So in Bangladesh there is a place called Cox's Bazar. Cox's Bazar, where approximately 6,20,000 Rohingya refugees are living. Some came to India as well, but obviously India has been very reluctant to provide Rohingyas the refuge, which has garnered lots of, let's say, United Nations Human Rights Commission as well to criticize India, that India, what are you doing? You are not providing refuge. You are supposed to provide refuge. Remember, India is not a signatory to United Nations Human Rights Council. India has not signed any refugee agreement ever. Why? Because we share borders with too many, let's say, weird personalities. There is Pakistan, there is Bangladesh, there is Myanmar. Okay, we do not want refugees. Why would I want refugees? So India has said that we are not going to hold Myanmar's refugee in India or give them access to refuge. In fact, whatever we have, we will be sending them one by one. Obviously, you cannot send a refugee back to Myanmar because you cannot make sure that they will be living there once you send them. You cannot send some person back to a place where you cannot grant his protection. So India's stance regarding this is that for our internal security purposes. Now understand how internal security. Myanmar has support from China. China supports Pakistan. Pakistan's ISI has establishment in Bangladesh. In Bangladesh near Chittagong region, where it has trained Rohingya people, some Rohingya people, as it has been mentioned by some security establishments of India, that ISI has been active in training in Bangladesh Chittagong region people of Rohingyas, Rohingya people, some people Rohingya people to radicalize them. Radicalize them. Now those people, if coming to India, let's say, we can't check who is radicalized or not, who is extremist or not, and the aim is that they will come to India and go to Kashmir and then they will create trouble. Okay, so that is one justification that has been given by India to the United Nations Human Rights Council, but obviously we are not a signatory to any of this, so we don't need to give any justification. The statement was given by India as internal security, as simple as that, due to our internal security. And even if we were signatory of this Human Rights Commission and all, then also there is a clause that regarding internal security, you can act completely sovereign. You don't need to give any justification as well. So if you have internal security, no problem. Now understand, in Bangladesh, in Cox's Bazar, 6,20,000 people are living. So India has been granting aid to Bangladesh to provide food in the form of food and grains. It has been able to provide some aid to Rohingya. So it is not like that we are completely leaving Rohingyas to their, let's say, fate. We are providing them, but we cannot give them territory to stay. Already we are facing too much trouble with Dalai Lama. Dalai Lama is living here with his government in exile, always making China feel suspicious toward us, that why are you having Dalai Lama? Okay, we will come to that when we do China. Okay, United Nations Human Council, United Nations Human Rights Commission, you understand what it means is that it has defined actually refugees. United Nations Human Commission, they have defined refugees. They have defined refugees in terms of three things. One is race. If you are getting persecuted in your home country on the grounds of race, nationality, let's say if we start beating Kashmiris, or let's say Bihari people, or people from UP, or Tamil people, it will be based upon nationality, that okay, you think you are Bihari, you are getting beaten up. Okay, you think you are Tamil, you are getting beaten up or killed. Okay, so over race, nationality, or membership of particular social group. Let's say now that you suddenly start killing people or throwing people away. Which people? Any social group you choose. Let's say class 10th student we are throwing. It also amounts to a particular social group. Or let's say your your what are those called? The people who sewage segregators, who manually scrape sewage. Okay, those people, or there are many unprivileged people in the world. Many social groups are formed. If you try to persecute them on those grounds, then also UNHCR says that you are a refugee. You have grounds for refugee. Also, your political opinion. Let's say that JNU guys, JNU Janta, they start government starts persecuting JNU Janta. Then also issue of Edward Snowden. Let's say Edward Snowden, he is one of the whistleblowers of United States of America. CIA he used to work in, or NSA. I think NSA he used to work in before CIA. He gave he let's say talked about something that he was not supposed to. He talked about that United States of America was surveilling upon your everyday user phones, Facebook, everything USA is watching. Government. Okay, that is why he has taken refuge in Russia. So there are grounds. You read about UNHCR. You finish it off today itself, I guess. Better, because you won't otherwise. Okay. Now Also, one more thing that you have to understand is that our neighbors, India has struggled a lot with this refugee problem. Earlier from Pakistan, then from Bangladesh. भैया फिर Lanka also refugee. Handle them always. When will we do our thing? When will we grow? When will we make in India if we are always engaged with refugee problems? So that is also one aspect, that our experience with previous refugee crisis have not been very well. So we are trying to stay away from this only. Meanwhile, let's see what China's angle is. China has three-step resolution regarding. See, if in Rohingya region only you are investing, so China has to come forward and give resolution tactic that okay, let's try to resolve. So what China has given is three-step resolution. First step is that immediate ceasefire in Rakhine region. Now understand what ceasefire is. Ceasefire means stop. That stop killing anyone in Rakhine region. That is their first policy. Second is that let's make bilateral repatriation deal. Bilateral between two, repatriation. Repatriation means coming back of the refugees. Repatriation deal with Myanmar. That everybody signs, like Bangladesh and Myanmar has signed that Bangladesh will repatriate those 6,20,000 Rohingya refugees in Cox's Bazar to Myanmar. They have signed that. In the repatriation deal, it means that okay, you send them back, we won't be killing them, we won't be persecuting them further. And third step is that you develop the region very well. Rakhine region, you develop very well and make sure that Rohingya people are happy there. Okay, economic development you emphasize upon. So you kind of think about it. India has not forwarded this point. India has not forwarded this point, but India has directly forwarded your third point, economic development, because we have been giving aid to Bangladesh and Myanmar as well regarding this. Okay, also one more thing, when UNHCR, obviously India you cannot hold upon accountable. We have problems, it is justified. Internal security, we have one issue. Then the second issue is that past experiences with Sri Lanka's Tamil coming, Pakistan's refugees coming, Bangladesh refugees coming. Already today we are engaged in NRC processes in Assam. Even today, after 71, that who is Bangladeshi, who is not. So it is not a very good experience that we have. In Kashmir also we have Afghani or let's say Gilgit Baltistan people. So it is not very fine, let's say, experience for us, acceptable. But what UNHCR is able to do is with Bangladesh and Myanmar, it has managed to talk in a joint working committee. Okay, and this deal China has brokered. So China has mediated this deal between UNHCR, Bangladesh and Myanmar. Now this is very shameful for India, because you think about it, we could have done this. The role that China has taken away, the mediation role. Now obviously Bangladesh will be thankful for China, that okay China, thank you for mediating this thing. Myanmar also, oh China is helping us. UNHCR also, China, plus every whole world is looking that Rohingya crisis, China is able to mediate. India could have taken on this role. Okay, so this is, you can say that instead of staying silent over the matter, we should have taken up this opportunity, because already we have, you can say that earlier when the peace talks were going on with Afghanistan, Pakistan was mediating the deal between Afghanistan government and Taliban. Who was brokering in between these two? Pakistan. Okay, Meanwhile, Afghanistan think that India is a better contender for this thing. Okay, then also Pakistan was able to mediate the deal. So India should come out of it, staying silent over the matter before somebody else grasps the opportunity and take a lead role in mediation at least. Because if we see the changing of trends earlier in the times of, let's say, Nehru, when Nehruvian policies were in predominance, when they were dominating policies were there of Nehru times, non-aligned policies, let's say, even back then in 50, Korean crisis when occurred, India was called upon by United Nations, and India was the one who mediated the peace, or the chairman of the committee, to ensure East Korea North Korea crisis. So we can see the trend that from then we have come to this, that even in our border, if something is happening, we are not able to intervene, or let's say try to calm the process down. So it is not very good thing that current regime is building upon. Okay, now further, this aid that we give to Bangladesh is known as Project Insaniyat. Project Insaniyat. Food aid we give. Obviously, Bangladesh can't provide food for those 6,20,000 people. So this is, it is not like India is completely not intervening in the matter. We are providing you sustenance. We are providing you aid. It is the most that we can do. It is our stand that we are taking because our internal security matters more to us. Plus, our current inclination is towards economic integration. We want economy to rise. We don't need to care much about humanitarian crisis and all. So I hope that, okay, one more thing that I think you must be feeling is that why United Nations could not come using its R2P measure if Rohingya problem is going on in Myanmar, that army is killing people, then where did this go? Have you considered this point? R2P, what was R2P? Responsibility to protect. Sovereignty lies with people of Myanmar. So state, army cannot persecute them. So why can't United Nations come in this regard? So again, you understand one thing very simply. Most of the times, the executive power is with UNSC. UNSC is the only one who can sanction intervention, and UNSC has China as its member, and China, because China is the one who is investing in Rakhine region where Rohingya crisis is there. Why would it want that other parties, USA, France, India, come with their forces inside Myanmar? Why would it want? So it won't be, let's say, reasonable to think that China would not give veto. It will definitely give veto. So this is your first point. So it is very tough to get R2P sanctioned by United Nations Security Council. Only few times we were able to get that in the crisis of Libya when Gaddafi was removed. Okay, so I hope you think of that. Also, there is one thing that India has been providing for development of Rakhine region as well. We have created a fund of $25 million fund we have created for Rakhine development, and in using this fund we are trying to establish housing for those 6,20,000 people that will be going to Myanmar, plus schools, plus roads network. So it is good thing, I guess. It is not like we are not completely doing nothing. We are doing something. We are directly doing what third point of China's three-step resolution was. Okay, third step was what? Economic development of Rakhine region. So we are, you can say, in that domain. Okay, now I think that most of the things are covered. Okay, you have the idea. So again, one thing that I would like, always try to analyze what China's game is in any neighbor, and you then analyze how India should give. Not only you have to maintain relation with your neighbor, you have to give check to China as well. You have to balance it. Okay, so let me know if you guys have any issue with this. Okay, and I am not giving any responses from you guys regarding anything. I am not even sure if you guys are able to understand or watch anything. You guys are not responding no Telegram group as well. So I guess you guys have started lacking in your preparation. You're falling behind. Okay? So anyhow, if you will be going on like this, obviously I'll also try to cover this very quickly and move on. Obviously. Right? If you are not interested, then what can be done? Okay, now few of you who do actually read and watch, you let me know of your queries. Chalo, then bye bye.